All right, happy Thursday, everybody. So today I thought we would. Tammy reached out yesterday asking a question about, just struggling with just overall, figuring out comparable sales for a listing, and just struggling with how do you find them and how do you get the information, how do you sort through it and all the things. And so I thought, you know what, that's a question that probably several people have. So let's just open this up and, we'll kind of do live in action. I'll share my screen and we'll just go through a couple of them and just play around with it. And listen, there's always going to be, some are going to be easier than others. If you're in a cookie cutter subdivision where there are 6 houses that have sold in the past 6 months that are the exact same floor plan as the one you're dealing with, it's pretty easy. You're going to nail it down almost to the penny. When it's something that's a little more unique, it gets a little trickier, and you just, you go with what you can and you do the best that you can, and you consult with the seller because ultimately it's their decision, but it's also your decision on what number you're willing to put on that listing and have your sign in the yard. So there's a little bit of both. And we went on a listing appointment yesterday, and it was, I mean, it's a neighborhood that we've sold a lot of houses in, but when you look back at everything that sold in the past year, every one of them have a finished basement. This one's a similar home with an unfinished basement. But then you get the curveball thrown at you of, ooh, but this one has a pool. And so it's like we're sitting there, and it was really sort of a live, we were laughing on the way home. I was like, the sellers kind of got to see me sitting there working through it in my mind, because I'm just sort of, okay, well, here's what I was thinking coming in here, because you didn't tell me you had a pool. I'm walking out back going, oh, wow, this is awesome, And so they're seeing me kind of work through this live action. And I'm like, this is the number I was thinking to begin with, without the finished basement. But then you got a really nice house and a great lot. So I think we can go higher. And how much can we get for the pool? And, so we were just kind of working through that. And I was like, feel like we're in this range. And of course, I always throw the joke out there, how much you want for it, and see what they say. And so we were able to settle on, I mean, we ended up talking about putting, I was real comfortable at 550. They wanted to try 575, and we settled on 559.9. So we're going to try that. And if it doesn't work in the first couple of weeks, or so, then we'll start talking about reducing that. So to some extent, it is and sometimes you don't know. And I tell people, this is not rocket science. We don't know. It's hard to pinpoint an exact price, because you don't know what buyer's going to walk in there that might have been looking forever, and this is the house they've been looking for, and they're willing to do whatever it takes, versus, it just sits there for a couple of months and the market's not really reacting to that price, and you have to make some adjustments. So, Tammy, you started this little charade, so hit me with your question and let's play with this.
Sorry, forgot I was muted.
That's okay.
So there's just so many different softwares, avenues of which we can pull some comps. I
Yeah.
guess when I first started, I was just using MLS.
Yeah.
And then along came there was the RPR, there's when you pull up one, you could, click on the tab to get a comp for it. So I've tried so many different ways. And it's like you said, when you come across one that's an oddity, a rare one, like my listing back in September of last year, that was just a diamond in the rough in the midst of all these
Mhm.
other houses. So that particular home, we ended up doing appraisal, just
Yeah.
because other agents had told them this astronomical number that I couldn't find a comp for. And we ended up getting more than appraisal slightly, but I guess I just don't feel confident in what I'm seeing as quickly as values have shifted just
Yeah.
in the 2.5 years that I've been an agent.
Yeah.
We started when houses were just booming, and then people were offering over, and then it kind of slowed down and they decreased, and now they're going back up. So I guess I just want to hear from you and other people. What method are you using to find a good comp that you could share with an appraiser should they want to see if
Yeah.
your home didn't appraise for the value? And then also just to show with buyers or to your sellers,
Yeah.
what you're thinking.
Well, and that's a good point. I always, you know, to some extent, I'm willing within reason if the seller is wanting to go above what I'm suggesting, I'm willing to try it. I always give the caveat of, hey, if it doesn't work, don't shoot the realtor. Remember, I said this number, we're trying your number. If it doesn't work, we'll come back around. But I don't want to go too crazy with it because of what you're saying. I want to be able to defend my position if the appraisal comes in low, unless that seller, and I have that conversation sometimes, hey, we can throw this out there, but you got to know it may not appraise. And if it doesn't, there's only so much I can do. I mean, I have successfully disputed appraisals before, but I've got to have data to back up my position that no, I think it's worth more than what you're saying it's worth. I can't just go in and go, I hereby dispute your appraisal. And they automatically go, oh, yes, sir. Let's increase the price. I got to be able to back that up with data and go, hey, I don't know if you saw this comp or your square footage based on what we understood it to be is off. Did you double check it or are we missing something somewhere? And that's a whole nother conversation about how to deal with an appraisal. And that's not what we're doing right this second. But so I'm with you. You want to be able to have good data that you feel comfortable and confident with, whether it's, talking with an appraiser about where you came up with the price or I get buyer's agent sometimes, can you send me your comps you used to price it? Like, no, that's not my job, you know.
Or your own.
Yeah, pull your own comps. But that's the other side of this coin, right? As buyer's agents, we want to be able to counsel our buyers on, hey, this is a good price on this house. You need to be careful and not miss this one because they've got it underpriced and we got an opportunity here. Or on the flip side, this is overpriced a good bit. I think it's worth this, so let's be careful with our offers. They may not take anything lower. They may be crazy and think it's worth more. But I don't want you to get in a position without knowing it that you're overpaying or something. So it works on both sides of it. So, all right. So Tammy, you sent me an address a few minutes ago, of 6447 Aspen Lane in Hueytown. And so let me share my screen. And all right. Can y'all see my screen? Good. Okay. All right. So where I usually start, just, if I don't know anything about the house or I just want to get some general information is some of y'all may or may not know this, you got this power search bar up here at the top. And I usually, you can just start typing the address and if it's in there, it'll start populating and then you can click on it and oops, I hit the wrong button and I'm trying to bring up, go away. It'll start populating the address and then you can click on it and pull up an old listing. But I did this earlier and this one's not in there, so it doesn't work for us. So Tammy, what do you know about this house? What are our, what is it? What am I looking for? Because listen, when we're talking about comps, and I hate using the word comps with my clients because people don't know what the heck comps are. It's comparable sales. And what's the key word there? Comparable. We're looking for comparable things that are similar to things homes. Jen's knocking stuff off the table over here. But we're looking for similar homes that have sold recently that indicate the value of the home we're about to be dealing with. So what are we looking at?
So it looks like to me this home is in the subdivision in Hueytown. It's got a Bessemer address, which is very common in Hueytown. Bessemer,
Sure.
the 35020 and 23.
Common everywhere, yeah.
But it's the neighborhood called West Wind. It's actually the subdivision I used to live before I moved here, so that's how I know these people. I think they're probably the original owners from the time the home was built, which was in 1998. So that could be why we're not seeing anything in here from it. I think it has about 2,000 square foot upstairs. I don't know if they finished any of the downstairs. To my knowledge, it looks like it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath.
So you haven't asked them any of this stuff.
So I don't have a lot of information. No, sir, not by the buyer from the seller yet.
Okay.
We're
So
meeting
that's
on Sunday.
and that's a good place to start. I mean, I usually when I'm talking to somebody on the phone and they want me to come over and take a look at their house, I'll try to get some basic information from them first. Is, is it a basement home or is it a slab? And I tell them I'm going to be able to find out some of this stuff just by looking at. I might find an old MLS listing or I might find it in the tax record or whatever. But give me the general rundown on what you've got, and they'll usually tell you everything. They'll,
Yeah.
well, we bought new drapes in 1997 and we did, so it was like, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it is a basement home. I do know that. 2-car garage. I just don't know if the basement is finished or unfinished.
okay.
I
So
think
I
it
would say
is
before you
finished.
go over there on Sunday, those would be important questions to get answered so that you can find comps to take with you that are as similar as possible to that house.
Yes. And like I
Um,
said, I'm familiar with that neighborhood.
mhm,
So I'm pretty familiar with, the prices, but you've got one on one end of the subdivision, which is right now listed at 299.9
yeah,
under contract. And then you've got another one that a Keller Williams agent that I know has, and I think she's got it listed like 335, but it started at maybe 355. So
yeah,
you've got this huge range, similar sized homes, um, probably very similar, other than maybe the age in which they were
yeah.
built, but it can't be that far off.
So
So
one thing,
that's a huge difference right
yeah.
there.
So one thing I'm always going to do, and this is not to give me information to price the house, but I'm always going to Zillow.
Yeah.
You know, Zillow says it's worth 314. The reason I'm doing that is because we all know every seller is watching their Zestimate like it's, they're watching the clock, waiting to get off work or something. They're like every 5 minutes refreshing it to see if the price of their house has gone up. And so sellers know what Zillow is saying. And so I know they've got that number in their head. And so I want to be able to either discredit that or back it up based on, what I can find. So I want to know what they're thinking, and I know they're looking at that number. So I always look at Zillow, and I might even look at RPR, and just, the general public doesn't have access to that, but we do. And
Mhm.
RPR is Realtors Property Resource, which is available to us for free through the National Association of Realtors. So I'll go in here and pop it in and see what they say. And um, there's usually a discrepancy between them and Zillow, but well, it was 6447, right?
Uh-huh.
There it goes. Aspen Lane. So look, Zillow's got it at 314, RPR's got it at 372. And so I mean, that's the thing. These automated things are all over the place, and you can't put a huge amount of stock in those. So that's where critical thinking comes in, and us just kind of thinking, okay, well, let's try to find some homes that are similar to this. So I'm gonna go into one of our handy dandy tax record programs. So I'm in MLS, and up here at the top in the top bar, you can click on tax. Just out of habit, I usually go to IMAP. You can use either one of them. There's two different ones, but I'm just kind of used to it because it was the one we had first. I got to move y'all out of the way. Sorry. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to switch to Jefferson County, and I'm going to pull 6447 Aspen and try to find that. And here we go. And mainly what I'm looking for here, I mean, you can get the owners' names, all the sort of things. You know, but down here at the bottom, I want to know how big it is. And so this is not always accurate, completely accurate, but it gives us an idea. It's saying that our living area, which would be above grade finished space, is 2,058 square feet. So we don't really want to be comparing it to a 1,300 square foot home or a 3,000 square foot home. We want to try to find stuff that's generally that same size. So it's a one-story house. Tammy's already told us that it's got a basement. So it's a one-story house over a basement. With and it's about 2,000 square feet, between 2,000 and 2,100. Looking down here further, garage under living area, no finish. So the tax record anyway says that it's not finished. Now, the only way the tax record would know it was finished is if the people finished the basement and pulled a permit before they did it. And a lot of people don't do that. So it might be finished and Jefferson County just doesn't know that. So, um, so I'm going to go back to MLS, and we're going to search just like if you were searching for, active homes, to send to a buyer. We're going to go in here and I'm going to hit search and residential. And for my status, right now I'm just going to look for solds because that's the most important thing to us. Now I may go back and add actives later because it's good to have an idea of what the competition is, of what else is out there that compares with this home. We are looking for property type. I'm going to say single family because I don't want to pull in any townhomes, condos, or anything. What's the elementary school, Tammy?
You'd be better off just to do the high school, Hueytown.
Okay. Okay.
They have
So I'm just gonna, I
plenty.
don't want to pull, because if I pull that whole MLS area over there, I'm gonna get various different school zones and all that sort of stuff. I want to kind of narrow it down to just the community where this one is. So I'm going to search the Hueytown High School zone. Depending on the area you're in, if you want to nail it down further, you can search by elementary school zone or something. And you
Would
can
you
do this 1,000 different ways.
would you
What's
nail
that?
this one down to look first at just the subdivision to see what's sold in just
Um,
that neighborhood?
yeah, we can. I'll do that. I'll leave the Hueytown High School in there because they're all going to be that anyway. And you said it is West Wind.
Uh-huh, one
Is
word.
that one word?
Mhm.
Okay. So West Wind, sold houses. You got this little counter up here that you can keep your eye on. We've drilled down. There's 212 houses. Well, that's because I haven't put any time criteria or anything else in there yet. I'm going to go down here. I only want basement homes. So under features, under must have, I'm going to go in here and say basement. So it's only going to pull homes that have basements because I've said it must have basement in the data field for the listings. So that cut us from 212 to 156. I'm going to say I only want, and you can put in as much as you want. And if it's not giving you enough, you can pull back some of these things. So I'm going to say we're up here under number of levels. I'm going to go 1 story. And that took us down to 97 homes. Again, I haven't put a time frame in there yet. This is as far back as MLS goes, is what it's pulling right now. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom and I'm going to go under dates criteria and scroll up, and you see this close date. You can either put a beginning and ending date of the time frame you want to search. I usually just do date range over here. You got this drop down menu, and I'll start with 6 months back, and there's 2 homes. My number up here dropped down to 2. So we'll look and see what those are. If they're fairly similar, then that helps us. If not, we need to open it up and go back 12 months. That's not the end of the world. I don't really love to go back further than that because remember, we're looking at what is currently happening in the market. So let's just hit search and see what it's showing us. And so we've got 2 solds in West Wind, one at 419.5 and one at 475. Let's look and see what these things have got. All right. So this first one, 2395 Hemlock Drive. Y'all make fun of an old man. I got to put my stylish glasses on over here. So it's 2,200 square feet, but then it has 650 square feet finished in the basement. It's 4 bedrooms and 3 full baths. So if that basement's not finished, then we're not going to be, as high as this one, but you can see here it listed at 419.5 and it sold for 419.5, closed in September, was on the market for 11 days. And then our next one was about the same size as what we're looking at. This one's 2,008 square feet. the one we're looking at according to tax record was 2,058. This one has 500 square feet finished in the basement. And this sucker sold for 475. And it was on the market 50 days. It was listed at 475. It sold at 475. They paid $7,000 in closing costs, and it was a conventional loan. That just closed in February. So those are two pretty recent comps to kind of give us something to go on. So Tammy, from there you can take, and when you know more about the house that you're listing, you can adjust, you can add or subtract. You can be like, okay, well, we've got this one that's a similar size that sold for 475. What does, you can look at what both houses have and add and subtract for that. If the one you're looking at doesn't have a finished basement, well, then you're going to have to back it down some for that unfinished basement. And these two, you're going to drill in, you're going to look at the pictures and see how do they compare to what you're looking at? Is one completely updated? Because that's a pretty big swing, 419.5 and 475. What are the differences and how do they compare? I also like to use, once you've got your data here pulled, let's say you've got 5 or 6 here and there's only 2 that are comparable. You can come over here and check the 2 that you like. We only have 2 in this count. And then you can go up here and click checked. And then it will delete everything that's unchecked. And then all that's left is the ones that you check that you want to use. And then I go over here to reports and I go down here to CMA. And look, it's not a visually stunning, beautiful graphic kind of thing, but I like the CMA summary because it's going to show me things like, in a real succinct format, number of bedrooms, baths, the living area, which is the square footage above grade. The HVAC total is the total square footage, including the finished basement space. And so you can really get a look at that and see, what's your, under sale price. What's my average sale price? Well, it's 447, 250. Well, if you got 5 good comps, then that really is helpful, to see what that average is and what the median is. You can see the highs and the lows, and it's just a real. So I'll usually print this and I'll print the full listing of each one of those to take with me, just to have something in my hand to refer to and show them on paper when we're talking through the pricing, equation of things. So is that helpful?
It is. I did something yesterday that I don't typically do, and it was through the MLS and IMAP and pulled up some other comparable properties.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why your search, the way you narrowed it, I guess, is different than what I did. And I came across another one on West Wind Drive that only sold for 228. Is that right? 414.23. So that was more than 6 months ago. But there was one that sold on February the 2nd on White Oak Lane that it sold for 475, and it was a 3-2 similar living area.
Did they have basements? Because I only did basement homes.
Yeah, most of these homes out here in West Wind only have basements. There's a few
Okay.
that don't, but
Were they a 1-story? Because I put 1-story. If it's got more than 1 story, then that's
Yeah.
different. Let's see. No, that's
what I'm saying.
still only 2. Well, I only went 6 months back though. You may have gone further than that.
Yeah, one of them was February of this year. The other one was further back than 6 months. Yeah. But then what throws me for the loop though, Chad, is then when you look and see what's active right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's one that Rhonda has with Keller Williams, and she's reduced it 2 and 3 times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and it's lower. And of course, I haven't dug deeply into what that home looks like on the inside and compared it to mine because I haven't been inside this home yet.
Well, and look, that's part of the equation is until you know what you're dealing with, you don't know what to compare it to. And so sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I go on a listing appointment and I don't have any comps and I don't talk about price with them because I tell them going in of, hey, I know that your house is a little bit unique and I wanted to look at it first because I really didn't know what to compare it to. And I didn't want to just be shooting in the dark and bring you comps that then I come in here and they don't really apply because you've got something different than what I perceived when I've never seen the house before.
Yeah. Yeah,
it'll be a little easier once you've seen the house. Then you can go back and kind of
absolutely.
look for things that are the most similar to it.
So look at that one right there that says active on Aspen
Yeah.
Lane. Same street, not too
Yeah.
far down the road, obviously. It is a 3-2 as well. Been reduced, now listed at 335 and it started at 355. So when you see what these others have sold for, and then you see this one's been on the market almost 120 days and it's listed for so much less, I don't I don't get it.
Well, look, part of it is you have to consider this house it was put on the market November 17th. What happened in October, November, and December?
Oh
Nothing.
yeah, but some of these
Absolutely
homes,
nothing.
yeah, but some of these homes are now under contract in January and February, and here we are
Yeah.
March, and it's still sitting there. So I mean, could it be that it got stale on the market?
Well, I mean, it could be overpriced. It could be, things like what does it back up to? Does it smell like cigarette smoke in there? There's just things that you don't know. And it might be worth you calling Rhonda and going, hey, I noticed yours has been on the market for a while. What kind of feedback are you getting? I'm about to list one over there, and I just want to know what's going on in the neighborhood and pick her brain about it.
Check the
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, because that's such a big jump in prices based on what was already sold.
Yeah.
Makes me
No, I
wonder,
agree.
what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with you that it is that's a tough one. I mean, it looks like it's in a good spot. You know, but yeah, they've
Yeah, so
reduced it. They've
history, if
reduced
I
it
see
20
it's
grand.
getting out of contract several times, then I might wonder if there was something on inspection.
Yeah, if we look at the history on it, it doesn't show that it's ever been under contract.
Mm-mm.
Um,
So then you just worry, okay, so is there a shift going on over there? Um, what's going on in the area
yeah.
that
Well, I
has
think
not moving?
you got to see the house and you got to know more about the house, to see what it compares to. Two, I would call some of the agents that have stuff on the market in the neighborhood and go, hey, what are you seeing? Are y'all getting any traffic? And then you can talk to your seller about all that of, hey, I've done my research. I've talked to these people. I think we got to price it here because you're real comparable to this house and they're getting no activity at that price. And so something's going on with the market, and this is just kind of where we are. So you just, and listen, there's not always a clear cut answer on this house needs to be priced here. I tell people all the time, look, to some extent, we're testing the market. We're going to price it here, see what happens. We're going to know I used to say within the first week, when the market was crazy, but within the first 3 or 4 weeks is when you get your best traffic. If we're getting no traffic, then the question comes, is everything getting no traffic? And so it's just where the market is right now. We either wait it out or we reduce the price to kind of catch the market where it is and catch those few buyers that are there. Or are we getting a lot of traffic, but we're not getting any offers? Because that tells you something too. If you're getting a lot of showings, but no offers, you're overpriced.
Yeah.
Or you need to change the cat litter or stop smoking in the house or whatever. There's a lot of things that it can be, but something is causing that if you're getting a lot of showings but no offers. So to some extent, you've got to be always kind of tuned into what the market is telling you. And sometimes we don't know ahead of time. We're trying to throw a dart and at a moving target sometimes. Sometimes the market's moving in an upward direction and we underprice things. Sometimes it's contracting and we overprice it based on what sold 6 months ago, but things aren't selling for that much anymore. And so you're chasing it downhill. And the problem is with comps are a look back. They're telling you what happened 3 months ago or 6 months ago. It's really not telling you what happened today. So to some extent, it's an educated guess that you and the seller just come together with an agreement on, knowing that you may have to adjust from there. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Oh yeah,
Anything
absolutely.
to
I
add
mean,
to that?
no, I was looking at it the other day and thinking, okay, so if it's this low down the street and we go higher, does that mean we're not going to get any traffic because we've listed ours for higher than theirs? And when comps would support it based on there was one that closed February 2nd. So anyway, that's why I guess I started doubting how I'm doing my comps, and is there a better way, another way that I'm not familiar with,
Yeah.
which is why I asked you to do this session.
Stacy, you're the other veteran on the call. What do you think? You got anything to add to that?
Let me unmute here. I mean, I do mine the same way you do, Chad. I mean, pretty much. I try to start out with, the square footage, all that, neighborhood, all those things. I mean, I'm kind of going through, Tammy. I'm right there with you on a couple of mine right now. But
Sometimes they just
mine,
make you scratch your head. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've got two that are sitting there. I mean, my little sellers are just, we started out a little bit higher than what I would have recommended. However, they forgot the conversation that we talked about. We're just testing the market. I mean, because they're about to be 90 days.
Yeah.
So, I'm dealing with one right now that's saying, hey, I just feel like it's the weather. I just feel like, I mean, this is the stuff I'm hearing. I feel
Yeah.
like the weather's been bad. People,
So
I
they
just
just don't, they don't want to reduce the price because they think the
yeah.
weather's due.
He said,
Listen,
yeah,
and there's a little something to that,
yeah,
but only to a point,
to a point. Yeah. And then, hey, if I reduce it, they're going to think I'm desperate. You hear all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But overall, sometimes it is just the market. It's just, hey, maybe in some areas we are seeing a little shift in pricing.
And I think whatever that is temporary. I really feel like as interest rates improve going forward, I'm fully expecting that we start ramping up even more from here once we get past spring break this month.
Yeah, I do too. Because I think like even on both of mine, I'll have a lot of showings on it.
Then it goes quiet.
And then it's like, okay, well, what happened? And then I'll see the interest rates went up. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a lot of it too. But there are just some properties, some areas that you do see what you're seeing on this one.
Yeah. And there's just some places where there's not much turnover. So then from there, you just expand your circle a little bit. If you're not finding great comps in the neighborhood, maybe you go outside the neighborhood within like the school zone and what can you find that's very comparable. Keeping in mind that appraisers are going to put the most weight on things that are in that neighborhood. They're going to use those comps before they use anything outside the neighborhood. So, and I have to try to tell sellers that sometimes they're like, well, this one in that neighborhood 2 miles down the road, sold for this. I'm like, yeah, but we got 5 comps in your neighborhood. An appraiser will not use those down the road. They've got enough right here in your neighborhood to substantiate your price, and they're not going to use anything outside the neighborhood.
So question then, Chad. So,
yeah.
Handle the conversation, we're kind of testing the waters, markets, shift continually based on a lot of different factors. What do you suggest telling them? Hey, let's look at this point. And if at this point, whether it be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever, what timeline do you recommend telling them up front? If this price is not getting in any traction, we're going to revisit it and consider doing a price reduction. What time frame do you suggest, or does that vary based on neighborhood?
I think it varies a little bit, but I've been telling everybody lately, we're going to talk more often than not. We're going to communicate. It's hard to say an exact time frame. I used to say, let's give it 30 days. I like 2 weeks to at least revisit it. And it might not, I tell people, hey, it's not panic time. This is what we're seeing. We're getting good activity. Let's give it a little bit longer at this price or whatever. It doesn't mean that it's a hard, fast rule that after 2 weeks, you've got to reduce it. But I think you've got to be communicating with your sellers, more often than not, and not just letting time go by and you're not talking with them.
Yeah.
One thing that just hit me, Tammy, this house that we're talking about, your subject property, was built in 1998. If we look at our comps, so this one, well, that doesn't help me any. Okay, this one, the highest one was built in 1999, and then one was 2003. So I guess they're all similar. That one was 99 and that one was 96. So never mind. I thought there might be some discrepancy in the time frame they were built, but they're all close enough together that really shouldn't matter.
Well, the one that I was telling you that is under contract contingent right now, this one on Post Oak Drive. Well, it says it was built in 96. I was thinking it was built in late 80s, but I guess I was wrong on that one. That's actually a friend of mine's home, but I think they did it off market to somebody that the agent knew. The
Gotcha.
agent is a relative of theirs, and I think it was somebody she knew that was trying to get in the neighborhood.
I would definitely talk with that agent
Yeah.
to find out why it sold for that amount. You'd be surprised because I had one last year that I called an agent about because it had sold for a lot less. And she basically told me that the reason the guy did it is he was desperate. Like he was going to lose that house and he decided that he was just going to let it go. And she said, I did discouraged him, but to do that, but he needed to do it. And she said, unfortunately, it hurt the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
but it doesn't always if you know what's going on with it. And that's why if I have one that sells low and there's a reason behind it, like I just sold one that part of the reason it sold so low is all the windows were bad. There was about $15,000 worth of window sashes that need to be replaced, and we compensated for that. But nobody knows that. So when I closed it out in MLS, I put that in the sold notes that the reason this one sold lower was this. So appraisers can see that, other agents can see it and all that, but people don't do that very often. Right. So sometimes you just pick up the phone and call the listing agent and go, look, I see that this one, why are you priced so low on it compared to the other stuff I'm seeing? And you might find out that, like Stacy said, there might have been some issue, or maybe there was a problem with the house. Maybe the basement leaks and they knew they couldn't get full, market for it, but they couldn't afford to fix it. And she knew somebody that would buy it like it is for a discounted price, and then they'll fix it and do whatever, You just never know. So it's worth asking of why is this? Because it is an outlier on the low end. I mean, these other ones that, that one's listed at $299 and under contract. You got another one at $335. And then the ones that have sold have been above 400. It is really kind of crazy over there. And
there's a reason. There's got to be a reason.
I'm not sure what the differences are there.
Yeah, I'm just curious if maybe they sold it to a family member or something.
It's possible. They may have
I know
cut a deal.
They bought land and they're planning on building, and they've already got temporary housing and everything. They're just relocating to another area. So maybe it's a family member. I don't know.
Something could be in the area that's affected all the prices.
I'm sorry, Joel, say that again.
I was just saying that something could be going on in the area that's affecting all the prices in that little area.
Yeah, I don't know. I would just do some more. I would talk to the agents, and then kind of see how yours compares to these others that have sold. And then you just have those conversations with the seller of, hey, this market's crazy right now. And there's been some fluctuation in your neighborhood that I can't really explain, but this is where we are. And based on what these agents are telling me, they're getting very little activity, or they're just not getting anybody to bite at these prices. So, in order to get it to move, we're going to have to price it, competitively with those houses.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there.
And that's probably, that's going to be the hardest conversation, is when they look at what's sold versus what's contingent and active right now and what prices they're listed at. But I can tell y'all what I think it is. There's been 2 crimes committed in the Hueytown area, like in the city of the downtown part of Hueytown. And I really am wondering if that's what it's affected prices there.
I don't know. It could be any number of things. But the market is what it is. I mean, you can be the best realtor in the world, and the free market is going to decide what the price of that house is. So we just have to find it and get it close enough to where somebody bites at it, you know?
Yeah, that's what we got to do is get a good price so we can get traffic in there, right?
Yep. Yep. That's right. Does anybody else have another example that we can do a live case study on here? Jennifer Curtis, I know you had something.
I have one in Columbiana, the one I called you about the other day.
Oh, throwing me all these curveballs. Give
This
me
one, yes.
what you got?
It's 402 Mildred Street. So a lot of these homes, or not a lot of them, some of these homes have been built by flippers.
Yeah.
So there's some that have sold for 350, 375,000. And then you've got this particular family who bought theirs at like, I think 115,000. And they've done upgrades minus their master bath. So, and everything in the area is just all over the place.
Yeah, it looks like they bought it in 2020 for 145 according to MLS.
Yes. Okay.
And so it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Is that they hadn't changed anything? That's still accurate?
That's still accurate.
Okay. All right, so this was a house built in 1952, 1,788 square feet. So let's see what we can find. So search. I'm gonna clear all this stuff. This it's gonna give me an error if I don't check that stuff again. So, all right. So let's see. Sold. I'm gonna go to Elvin
Elvin
Hill
Hill.
Elementary, and I'm gonna try first just looking at 2-bedroom houses. I don't know what we're gonna find there, and I'm gonna say that house was built in 1952 or something like that. So I'll just go year built 1940 to, I don't know, 1970. I want older stuff. I don't want anything that was built in 2015 or something to pop up. My dates criteria, I'm going again to close date. I'll try 6 months back. It's only giving me 2. But what the heck? Let's see what they are. So one is an interesting little work of art for $74,000 cash that closed. It's smaller. It's 1,100 square feet. I don't know how close that is. I mean, it's in the same school zone, but it's not in that downtown area.
Mhm. I mean, I had to go back like, I think almost a year and a half to pull up some of the ones that were purchased and then flipped.
Yeah. I sold one of them. So this one's down there, I think. 1,048 square feet, 2-bedroom house, sold for 174 in November. Let's go back and then just go back a little further. Let's see, criteria. Let's go 12 months back. So there's 7. There's a lot. That one's still our top seller at 174. But these other ones, they're not really in that downtown area. And there's a way to do, I don't do it a lot. There's a way to do a map search where you can just draw a polygon on the map and search within that little circle. Go up to max of 3, and then we can kind of adjust. Other criteria I want to put on there. How many baths did it have?
2.
2, okay. I'm gonna put at least 2 baths. That knocked some of them out that were 1 bath.
Yes, that Ferry Road is one of them that was flipped. For sure.
Yeah, it's a tad bigger. And then it may be, yeah, it's all prettied up and a lot nicer.
It
on
had a
the inside than-
yeah, it had a massive transformation.
Yeah, so it's not really comparable. This one for 1,600 square feet. I mean, it looks like it's been dolled up a little more too. Good grief, 400 pictures of the outside. And this one's bigger, it's 1,900 square feet. And it's sold at what, 245? Similar in size. It's cued up. So, I mean, that again, you just kind of have to decide how do the finishes, like this is a similar size house. Now it's got 3 bedrooms, so you're not going to get as much, you know, for the one you're talking about that's only a 2-bedroom as you will for this one. So you're going to have to adjust there, and then you're going to have to adjust for, you know, what are the finishes like compared to what you're looking at?
Right.
Because all these look like they've really been dolled up. This one's smaller, sold at 220. Doesn't look as much like a flip. So, but again, it's 3 bedrooms, well, and 1.5 bath, and it's smaller than yours. What do you know what you're, sometimes it's good to know what your seller's thinking and what they want out of it, and then you can kind of figure out, okay, do we think we can get that or not?
Well, of course, they've been on Zillow.
Mm-hmm.
So they're thinking probably in the 220, 230 range.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that, I mean, based on what we're looking at, that might be tough for a 2-bedroom, but it's also within the realm of possibility, and it's hard to find anything for that price. Let's do this. Let's go and search in that, let's see. We'll search that same school zone for active. Elvin Hill, and let's go a maximum price of 225. Whoops, that's bedrooms. That's wrong field. 225. So there's only 2 homes for sale. And how do they compare? Well, that one's going to be lovely at 66,000. But you got this one at 186.9. Similar square footage, but it says it's a 4-bedroom. It's on an acre, but it, you know, hadn't been touched since 1972, it looks like. So I mean, if it shows good, and you know, you might be okay there, but it's just, you know, sometimes you just got to try it. It's like I said, sometimes you just, on these unique properties like this, it's hard to pinpoint, and sometimes you just got to have the conversation with the seller of, hey, you know, I think it's possible, but I'm nervous about it. Let's try it. If it's not working, we can adjust from there. And at any point, if you're like, I'm not adjusting anymore and I'm not taking a penny less than this, and you decide you want to take it off the market, no harm, no foul. You just decide whether you're willing to go there or not. And it gets tough because I know, didn't you say these people are trying to find something and then they want to, make a contingent offer on something and then put it on the market?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that makes it tougher because they're not just on a fishing expedition to see what they can get for it and then they'll do something. They're going to need to move it quick once they find something. So, you just kind of try to have that conversation of time versus money, which I have with people all the time, is like, if you want to try a higher price, that's fine, but it may cost us time. If time is important to you, then we need to give a little on the money and get the price to a point to where it's going to sell quicker. And, and I know that y'all don't want to hear this, but sometimes it's just hard to nail down the exact price. We all deal with that of, hey, it's, it's just hard to pinpoint exactly where it needs to be, and, Tammy said she had one where they did an appraisal, and that can sometimes be something that you can do, but I've seen that go bad in both directions. I've seen the appraisal come in lower than it should. And I've also seen the appraisal come in at a number that makes no sense on the high side. And then the seller is fixated on, well, it appraised for this. I was like, well, but the market won't bring that number. So unless that appraiser is willing to write you a check, it's not worth the paper it's written on. And that's hard to get people to understand sometimes. So that's it's a tough conversation, and sometimes there's just no right answer and you just have to kind of try it and work through it.
I think that's the biggest deal with my client is he's fixated on that price.
Yeah.
That came with and he got that conversation. And it's kind of like, what else do you say? And then every time we have, because I call him once a week, give him an update. And sometimes I'm like, I don't really have anything to say. We need like a price adjustment. And when last conversation we had last week, he said, well, I just feel like maybe you don't want to work with me.
Oh, wow.
And it made me feel sad.
Yeah.
And I said, no, that's not it. You just told me wanted to move. I kind of told like what motivated his house on the market. I kind of went through that with him. The thing about it is that his daughter is a great client of mine. And I call her and tell her my conversation when we hang up. So she knows. She's like, yeah, he kind of stuck on that. And I said, but we'll get past just a bit more time. And I said, okay, I just want you to be involved in what's going on here.
Yeah, and you just get some personalities that get hung up and they can't see it.
It is. But like I told her too, is that I feel like emotionally he is so attached to his house.
Yeah.
He lost his wife last year. Right. I feel like there's a lot more going on. So I just wanted her to know, hey, it's not that I'm not trying to sell his house.
Yeah, he may be throwing up roadblocks because he's just emotionally not ready to let it go.
I think that's what it is. So there,
and you get that sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be very patient with him on that aspect. But like I told him at the beginning, I want you to get as much as you can for your house. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, your property is a little unique.
Yeah.
As far as it is right around the corner lake, but it's also not on the lake. You do have this acreage. You do have some great things, but it just might not bring you the price that this appraiser told us that you would get.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and listen, I tell people, I like using with an appraisal. An appraisal is an opinion of value, and they call it that for a reason. It is one person's opinion. It's based on data, but 5 different people can translate that data in different ways, and you can get 5 appraisals and get 5 different numbers sometimes, you know. So that's the thing that they have to remember about an appraisal is it is one person's opinion of your value. It's an educated opinion, but it's not always accurate as to what the market will bear. And so I like to use the phrase a lot of times with my sellers that, you know, we've tried this price and the market has rejected it, you know, because then that puts it on the market, and it's hard to argue with that, right? When they start realizing that the free market out there and people have free will and they're coming and looking at it and they're comparing it to other things that they're seeing, and based on what they're seeing and what they want and what they expect in this price range, it's not there. And so they're not even making offers. And that's some sellers that they've not done this in a long time, they have a hard time understanding why they're not getting offers. Well,
Right.
part of that is the home buying public over the past 3 or 4 years has been conditioned to, you don't make low offers. You know, they think that the price is the price. You got to pay pretty close to that price, or in some cases over it. So thinking about offering you $15,000 under your list price, just some agents are, you know, that have just come into the market in the past few years, they, you know, it's like they're intimidated by writing an offer that's low, even if it is an accurate offer based on what the comps say. It's hard to do that sometimes because you don't want to, you know, you don't want to look like the guy that's coming in lowballing everything. So, but that's hard to get sellers to understand, is that sometimes the people that are looking at it are just not conditioned to make a lower offer. And so they just move on and they never make that offer. It's just a product of this crazy market that we had going that is not normal for a few years. Now we're getting back to a little bit more normalcy, but people's thinking hasn't caught up to that. And that's why it's important to try to get the price nailed down if you can. And then you're going to typically sell it closer to that list price and not have to deal with lower offers or not getting offers because people are afraid to make a low offer.
Right.
I ain't scared. I'll write it up.
Well, that's the, you know, most of us sitting here have been in real estate, except for you guys that are veterans here. We've not been in it, you know, more than 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, right.
And so all we've seen is this craziness, this fluctuation of prices. We've not been in a normal market. But back to your point about making an offer that's lower, I think it's important as an agent that we do our due diligence when looking at homes for our buyers, do our comps, and then when we present the offer, explain why we presented the offer at that amount.
Hey, I have sent offers with comps before to show, hey, I don't want y'all to think that we're just pulling numbers out of thin air and we're trying to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. This is what we're basing it on. If you, and I've used this phrase before, if you've got other comps that I might have missed, we're happy to take a look at them, because we're not trying to lowball you. We're just basing it on what we see in the comparable sales, and we're just not finding anything that supports your price. They're willing to pay what the house is worth. We just don't see where it's worth your price. You know, sometimes that's helpful. I mean, I've had listing agents thank me for sending the comps, because that helped them convince the seller of what they've been trying to tell them all along, but you know, they don't want to listen to them. Of course, they
Second person's opinion is always great, right?
Yeah. So it's, you know, listen, that's when you go into whether you're working with a seller or a buyer or whatever, and you're dealing with this pricing, you know, and value issue. That's where the counselor hat goes on, and you're just really counseling with them to help them understand. Like, you know, yesterday when we're talking with that couple, and, you know, we had a good rapport with them, and we sit down and we're talking about pricing, and I told him I felt pretty good at 550. And he said, well, we'd like to try it, you know, on the high end at first. And I thought he meant, because we were talking about a range between 525 to 550, but I felt pretty good about trying it at 550. And I thought he was going to say, let's try it at 550. And he pulls out 575. And I'm like, well, wait a minute now. I don't know about 575. I'd be worried about, you know, will it even appraise at that and all the things. And then if we're above 550, we're missing all the eyeballs in the market that aren't looking at anything a penny above 550. And the wife was in agreement with me that 575 was too high. And so, you know, he was like, well, all right. And she said, well, let's try it at 560. And I was like, well, let's do 559 and then we'll go from there. So, and it's a great house, and it's, you know, some 559 might work, but we might sit here in 2 or 3 weeks from now, we might drop it to 549, you know, so it's just an exercise in feeling out the market and how the market responds to that particular property. Because, you know, you're comparing it to other properties, but they're all different. And there may be just something about your particular listing that makes it to where people aren't responding like they did the other ones. And sometimes people can't see it when they're living in it. They can't see that, you know, the fact that it backs up to a busy road and there's road noise affects, I mean, it does affect what people are willing to pay. I mean, there's all kinds of factors that you have to think about and adjust for, because the market won't respond to those.
Some people can't smell it.
Well, that's true. You go into them and they, you know, some of them, you know, people can't, they live with their 2 gigantic dogs and they don't understand that their house smells like a kennel. And we just have to find a tactful way to tell them that, hey, the pet odor is going to be a problem. We've got to address that, you know, and that doesn't mean get 14 plugins and cover up the smell, and make you choke on it when you walk in the door, all the perfume that's in the air. So, I mean, it's just, everyone's different. Every property's different. Every seller is different. And we have to deal with the cold, hard data, but we're also dealing with the emotion with our sellers. And those are 2 things that are in conflict a lot of times, you know, black and white data doesn't always meet up with, I raised my kids here. It's, you know, we poured our heart and soul into this house and blah, 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 blah. And those things fight with each other sometimes. And we have to be patient and counsel people through those things and help them to see. And usually they come around, but it just takes a little bit of time and patience to get them there sometimes. Anybody got anything else or any other questions?
No, I just want to say thank you, Chad, for letting us be inside your brain and see your thinking as you're looking at the comps and all the.
I hope it was helpful. I know this is, I mean, we haven't nailed down a price on anything we've talked about, which is a little bit frustrating, but it also, I think it's valuable, you know, to talk through the fact that it's not always possible to just pinpoint this is the price. You know, if you're in like I say all the time, if you're in Old Cahaba and Helena, where there's, you know, 14 houses that are 1,500 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths that have sold in the past 6 months, it's pretty easy to pinpoint. You know, you can throw out the one on the high end that had been completely gutted and somebody spent way too much money and overdid it for the neighborhood. And you can throw out the one on the low end that, you know, was falling apart and had a fire in the garage and they never did anything with it. You know, but for the most part, they're going to be in a pretty tight range of what they're selling, and it's pretty easy to pinpoint that. But these that y'all have brought up today are just a little bit different, and it just takes a little bit more, you know, walking through that, talking with your sellers, kind of digging in to Tammy, in your case, just kind of figuring out more about what the house has got and how it compares to those other ones to know what to do. And then I think you've got some, you know, some value in I forget what one of the, but I think one of the agents, I'm not sure, I can't remember who it was, the ERA one, but the other one, Rhonda, I think she's pretty sweet. I think she would probably tell you all you need to know on what's going on with hers. And I think there's just value in that, of communicating with other agents and seeing what's going on in the market. And most are pretty willing to share with you of what their experience has been.
That's a great suggestion. I know both of those agents, so I'll definitely reach out to them.
Yeah, I think you'll get a lot of, you know, then you're not guessing, you know what's going on, why that one is selling so low and stuff like that. It'll just help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking to those people. They'll appreciate that you dug into it.
Yeah, your sellers will appreciate knowing that you've done that research and taken that extra step to talk to those. I mean, I do that with my listings, that sometimes that, you know, if if it's just not moving and I can't figure out why, I'll call other agents that have listings in the area and go, hey, what kind of traffic are you getting? Have you had any offers? You know, what are you seeing? And you know, it's one of those, sometimes misery loves company. It just helps to know that you're not the only one. And you can go back to your seller and go, hey, I just want to let you know, I've talked to the other agents. I talked to 4 different agents that have listings in the neighborhood, and they're slow right now too. So it's not just us. There's something going on with the market right now. It may pick up in a couple of weeks, but it might not. So let's talk about your motivation time wise. Are you okay waiting it out and see if something changes in the next couple of weeks? Because on paper, our price looks good. But if you're in a hurry and we need to make some adjustments to meet, you know, your time frame that you need to meet, then let's talk about that too. And at the end of the day, it's your decision, but I don't want us to not have those conversations, because if something's changed with your timing since the first time we talked, you know, then, you know, we need to have those conversations. And so it's just those simple gestures of calling your seller and talking through things like that with them and letting them know you're working for them. And it goes a long way toward, you know, not losing the listing, keeping them happy, and them wanting to refer you to their friends because you were so attentive and you took care of them and you communicated with them. That's the number one thing that I hear when I go behind another agent, when a house didn't sell and then I end up listing it behind somebody else, is I never heard from them. They never called me. I didn't know what was going on. I was completely in the dark. So just don't be that agent. People want to hear from you. So, well, this was cool. We'll think of some other stuff to do. We're trying to think of, you know, when we get questions, whether it's a good topic for our Tuesday morning level up, you know, thing, or doing things like this where we just have a little workshop to kind of work through it. I think it'll be valuable. We'll just try to do more of this. So if y'all have ideas for things like this, or heck, any of y'all want to jump on and teach us some things, I'm always down to learn something. We'll just do this kind of stuff, you know, when we can. This one was a little impromptu, you know, because Tammy asked that last night, and I was like, well, we can jump on Zoom tomorrow. And then Jen was like, we could open it up to other people, because we knew that, you know, other people had these questions too. So I think it's good.
Chad, will you please share the recording? I'd love to have that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do
Go.
that. Yeah, I think it was, I think this
When you
was,
work through just the way you work through it, and then also just to see how you went navigated, and then just the discussion in itself was I enjoyed a lot. So
okay, cool. Well, I'm glad y'all got some value out of it, and we'll do something. We'll figure out what the next one will be and do something again soon.
Thank you, Shad.
Thank you
All right.
again.
Y'all have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.